Do you want to make $10,000 today? Do you want to lose 20 pounds in the next month? Do you want to be well-liked and respected by all your peers? We can't help you with that. You've come to the wrong place. But if you do want to earn an hour of CPE credit for listening to this episode, right after you finish, head on over to the Earmark app, take a short 5-question quiz, and you earn 1 hour of CPE just for listening to us. Happy quizzing! Welcome to Unaccountable, the world's okayest accounting game show podcast for product news and updates. I am your debit daddy of a hope.
You're a hoe. Yes. Do not cut that, Ian. No, you don't get to start over. Oh, come on. You got to leave that in there.
All right, fine. I am your debit daddy of a host, Tyler Otto, and I'm joined by the credit crony, Jeremy Van Grull, who is much better prepared to record this morning than apparently I am. Just take it away. I don't deserve this.
Lies. And you may be a hoe, but you're my favorite hoe. What was the scene? Have you ever seen the Cat in the Hat movie with Mike Myers?
It was a while ago.
And he jumps over the fence and steps on a hoe and smacks him in the face. And he's like, "Oh, dirty hoe." And I start dying laughing. And my kids are too young to understand that joke. My wife just looks at me like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yes, that's hilarious."
Dirty hoe. I'm sorry, baby. I love you.
Those movies that layer that in are arguably the best of all time.
Yes.
Jeremy, we're surviving tax season, man. And there's fun stuff coming up now. Dare we just jump right into news this week? Because we got to be on a schedule today.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, first off, I don't know if you saw this, but Intuit released an email postponing the sunsetting of what key feature within QuickBooks Online.
I did see this. The tags, and I'm not doing the Midwestern tags. Tags.
Yes, you are correct. On May 16th, my brother's birthday, so all of you can wish him a nice happy birthday. Right. They are now going to be sunsetting tags because they want to give people like Jeremy, who have relied on him for, instead of using class accounting for a long time, the ability to figure out a new plan. Jeremy, do you think this is the final postponement, or are they going to give people another month as we get closer? Is it going to become the new BOI?
Yeah, I don't know. I think if they keep getting constructive feedback that it could get posted again, but they did say, isn't it this week that the extended custom fields or whatever were going to be available? I have not looked at that at all, and they said there's some kind of migration process. I haven't looked at that either. Contrary to what you said, we do not use them very widely, so not going to be a huge impact here.
Yeah. So through the 17th, the custom fields were available. So already, listener, you've missed that boat. But now they're going to start migrating those tags to custom fields in QuickBooks Online over the next 2 months. So if you're using that feature, you need to get on a new custom field. I struggle with those custom fields. And again, this should not be considered news. But last Intuit rep that talked to me, they were trying to push me hard on getting clients onto Enterprise. And I'm just like, until you have all those fields available in your API, I'm not going to even entertain it. And they said, we have a solution for that now. But they wouldn't go into detail what it was. And they wanted to set up a 90-minute call to go over everything Enterprise has to offer. And I passed. So apparently they're saying they have some solution, but I haven't heard anyone touting it yet, nor have I seen any of our favorite softwares pulling in those new custom fields via the API.
Well, as usual, you beat me to the punch there, because I was going to say right at the beginning, don't rely on things that can't get used through the API, that you can use your tools, right? If our friends Keeper can't figure it out on how to pull it into those things, there's a good chance nobody can. So be very limited with any of your options there.
Yeah, because this is going to totally limit you. If you want to, let's say, run payroll and have it hit one of these new custom fields, your only option is using QuickBooks Payroll, which, by the way, is someone that was just doing a cleanup for a client and wanted to use QuickBooks' reclass tool to move what departments labor was hitting in. The only entries I could not move in mass were QuickBooks payroll checks. I had to do them manually one at a time. Why is it that QuickBooks payroll is the worst payroll to use to be able to actually do what you want in the software?
I had that exact same discussion this morning internally. To be like, I forgot what they were saying. And it was like, I have no visibility to this based on this tool. Oh, the QuickBooks payments, right? We had a payment and one of them says denied. And I'm like, I can't figure out where the hell this came from. Can you? And she's like, no. And I'm like, yeah, it's like the checks you get or the payroll checks you get QuickBooks, no visibility to anything. You can't touch them. You got to go in a whole different almost module to see the details and run reports. It's awful.
Now, I love how much we are stuck to that system, even though you and I are probably on their hate list for how much we criticize it.
Yeah.
Also, Jeremy, in the news, I don't know if you saw this, but how many, if you had to guess, IRS workers got reinstated in the last week? Nearest thousand.
I did not see this. And how many were out again? It was like 20,000 or 14,000 or something.
Again, we don't have the budget for full research.
All right. 5,000.
You know what? I'm going to give you close enough. 7,000. But here's what's interesting is from the Journal of Accountancy, 7,000 IRS workers are, quote, reinstated, but not yet returning to work. So they were laid off on February 20th. They were emailed and say, hey, you are re-engaged, you are reinstated, but please don't return to work until further notice from the courts. So we are going to back pay you and put you back on payroll, but don't do anything. Jeremy, how much would you love to be an IRS agent that just got laid off and got a month sabbatical paid for?
Oh, yeah. Well, again, I would not want to work in any government role right now, right?
Agreed.
You probably couldn't pay me enough. And then I thought you were going to say that like, oh, they are going to come back or whatever, and they didn't get the pay. Because to me, that'd be on Doge's list of like, hey, we saved money because we laid off IRS workers for a month and then brought them in. So whatever that bill would, that could have been on their savings list. But if they're getting back pay, I guess that's not an option. Though we've discussed shady accounting practices previously, so it still might be. Who knows?
It's entirely possible. To your point, there were 24,000 federal workers laid off. 7,000 of them were IRS agents. I don't know if there were other IRS agents as well, because again, limited research budget here.
Right.
But very interesting because if they do get fully reinstated, does that help us? Does that hurt us? Does that mean more audits or maybe just faster processing of client refunds? I know for me personally, every client that I've had that has a refund due this year, sometimes, you know, if it's a small amount or I don't always advise filing right away because do you want to, you know, the IRS audits based on first in the door, you know, they've got to start just auditing as soon as they can. So if there's a small amount of people that submit, you have a higher chance of getting audited earlier on. But right now it's like, if you've got a significant chunk of change coming back, I don't know how long that's going to take. I would suggest you file now.
Right. That'd be another thing they could put on their earnings list is like, we delayed processing returns for people and be able to keep this money and gain interest on it because of our inefficient process because we laid all these people off. Perfect.
That's one way to spin it.
Yep.
All right. Well, Jeremy, let's jump into our first game this week. Because you just love coming here every other week, every fortnight to talk with me about taxes, right? Like this is what you love.
I live for this, and we're actually a day late from usual and going at a different time. So if you're seeing the thing, I got the sun on my dome here, so it's even more shiny than usual. I love it.
This is amazing. Well, yeah. Jeremy, I am going to run you through 9 tax provisions, 9 tax codes, 9 tax slang. You're going to tell me if this is actually part of the tax code or if it's just crap I made up. Code or crap? Do you understand the game?
Yeah, let's do it. I like my 50-50 odds at least.
I want to make it as easy on you as possible. Wow, I'm struggling to talk. See, this is why we should never record in the morning. I need time to ease into this.
Yeah.
All right. Jeremy, starting with question 1, code or crap, the staycation deduction. As a part of the R&D credit, a business can receive a small deduction to spend on vacation days at home, saving on travel expenses.
I'm going to go code.
No, we're going to start out with crap. That's just stuff I made up, man. There is no. Just no. Hey, Jeremy.
Right.
No.
Yeah. All right. Fair.
All right. Question 2. The kiddie tax, a special set of tax rules for kids under 18 who have unearned income over $1,350.
Code.
All right. He's already avoided the shutout. He's already just law of averages is working out for him.
Right.
Yes, The kitty tax, which, as much as this one gets thrown around, I almost never see it because a kid has to have over $1,350 of unearned income. So that would be dividends or interest for anything they own within a year. And it's taxed at different rates. Any amount above $2,700 is taxed at the parent's higher marginal rate. And this is most likely because parents thought, oh, we'll put whatever account in the kid's name because their tax bracket is lower, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because what other kid, Jeremy, has unearned income, just interest and dividends exceeding $2,000 any given year?
I don't know. Some of those kids that do like the online influencers and YouTube channels, if they got some investments, maybe, but that'd be the only thing. And
Yeah,
if they had again, not going to happen, but if they had real estate and we're getting revenue from that, is that considered unearned?
well, it depends. Are they mowing the lawn and going over there and doing that? Like, yes, maybe they get their reasonable wage.
Okay.
If the parents just made them part owner, yeah, that's unearned. So I don't know. I don't see this often, but the kitty tax, it's always good to know. Makes you sound smart and keep an eye out for it.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Jeremy, the doggy dependent provision. It permits owners to claim a tax deduction for veterinary expenses if their pet is certified as an emotional support animal.
I'm gonna go crap.
Well done. Yes, it is crap that I just made up. But there actually are provisions out there where some medical expenses, if you're like itemizing for your Schedule A on your own tax return, if it's like a dog that is needed, like say they're one of those ones that detects seizures and there's certain medical expenses, you can actually deduct some pet expenses if they're required by your provider. Super small, but there is no business deduction for veterinary expenses on any sort of animal. Unless, it's a racehorse, maybe. There's always exceptions, but this is not real. I know you're giving me that look.
But not your Chihuahua in the pink vest that says emotional support animal that you bought off of Amazon. That doesn't count?
No, there is no doggy dependent out there. All right, Jeremy, next question. The side hustle savings deduction. It provides a tax exemption on the first $1,000 earned from side gigs like driving rideshare or online craft sales.
Ooh, I'm on the fence on this one. I'm going to go crap.
There's no deduction. The IRS doesn't say you get the first 1,000 free. They want their money, man. And then you got to pay that tax preparer who's just awful, out of Salt Lake City, Utah, to do a tax return that pretty much negates all your profits. So, no.
Poor decision making.
Yep, exactly. Next question, Jeremy. The marriage penalty. A tax policy phenomenon where a married couple filing jointly may face a higher tax burden than they would if they had remained single or filed separately.
What code?
Yeah, that is code. This is relatively less common ever since 2017 in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. But for very high earners that are in that 37% bracket, there are instances where a couple reporting their income combined could get penalized a lot more than filing separately. And so it's a weird phenomenon. Some states still have this much more prevalently. One of the articles I was reading, there's still 15 states where this is very common at the state level. It's less common at the federal level, but yeah, interesting to know.
And you as their tax advisor could help them strategize around these specific things?
So we absolutely can. For those of you that use Drake, if you didn't know this, there's a nice little button up the top where you just say split tax return and you can go see what it looks like if you split the people or put them together. And now all of a sudden you've got the visibility. Super easy to do. If I don't do it for every client, because most of the time there's one big earner and then the rest of them, the other spouse is normal. But if you get two people with high six-figure incomes, take a look at it because it could be worth looking at. Jeremy, look at you. You sound like a tax pro. Only one wrong. All right. Next question, Jeremy. The hobby loss rules. These define the difference between whether a business is truly a business or a hobby.
I feel like this one's subjective. I'm going to go code because I know something around this exists. Yeah.
Yes. So there are rules out there because a lot of people will start a business. Like for me, for example, my wife got me a 3D printer for my birthday. And we've been playing around with it a lot. And while I'd love to say we're going to start a business so I could deduct the expense of all the filament and the softwares for CAD design we've done and whatnot, I could say we're starting a business. I could set up a business bank account. But I could lose money this first year and the IRS might be okay with it. But if you post losses more than 3 of 5 years of operating, the IRS looks at it and says, no, this is not a business. This is you deducting your hobby. And then they come after you for all the back taxes owed. So the rule is usually deduct down to zero, where like you make your profit on what you do sell and then count all your expenses till you get down to zero, but don't take that loss. That's how you avoid getting penalized. The hobby loss rules. There you go.
I like it. I think we talked about this too when it comes to training or other costs, is that you would need to have some sort of revenue in order for it to be a business too. So you'd have to print off like a shiny Pokemon coin and sell that to somebody for $1, and then at least you'd be in business and have revenue before it would even come, correct?
But dude, it's fun. Like this right here. I'm going to a conference next week. I printed out an iPad stand to use for people to sign up. Like it's fun, dude.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
straight from plastic. Who'd have thunk? All right. Next up, you got 3 more, Jeremy, and you're actually sounding like you know what you're talking about.
yeah. Ugh.
The backdoor IRA, a provision that allows high-income earners who don't qualify for Roth contributions to still make Roth contributions.
Code.
Easy if you haven't heard of this one by now. Yes, it is a great little tactic and tool where if people make more than the 230 something, again, people go consult the actual numbers because it was different for 24 than it is for 25. And that was for married filing jointly. It was 230 something. Individual, it was less. But all that being said, there is still a way to contribute to your Roth. Now, there's a couple provisions because you basically have to contribute to a traditional and then convert it within the Roth. You do it the next day. But the big thing people get caught up on is you can't have any other traditional IRA funds out there that aren't converted already. So you've got to do a lot of catch up if you have a lot sitting in traditional, or they have to be sitting in something like a 401k. 401ks are exempt for this, which is really interesting. I bring this up because I had a certified financial planner that I was working with for all of my retirement and whatnot. And I said, hey, someday I'm going to need to be able to do backdoor Roths. I had a simple IRA that we then switched our company to a 401k. And I said, hey, I should probably roll this over to the 401k so that, you know, I don't ever have to convert it. It's just out of the way in the 401k. He's like, no, we'll just put it in traditional account for you. And it dawned on me at that moment that even certified financial planners with 20 years of experience don't understand the tax implications of all of this. Like, it's amazing how people that are touted as these industry experts, they may not know the tax side. And so feel free to always be skeptical when talking with a CFP about tax implications of your retirement.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't trust them at all because that's not what they're like. They should have that, at least broad knowledge of it. But it would just be like, hey, your accountant, you know taxes, right? They are really an investment expert looking to maximize your returns while putting their little slice in their pocket.
Yep.
Right? So, yeah, I
mean, one of two things had to be true. He was either ignorant or he was not looking after my best financial interests, which is worse. I'm going to assume the best, which means he was ignorant.
And if you're a CFP, though, like you have fiduciary responsibilities, right? Like, yeah, okay. Yeah.
So ignorance is the nicest thing I can assume there.
Right.
2 more, Jeremy. The midnight snack deduction. This permits night shift workers to deduct expenses for meals purchased between midnight and 6 a.m. as part of their travel meals.
That's got to be crap.
But I mean, didn't I do a good job of like trying to make it sound at least somewhat legit in the description?
I did, yeah. You did a good job. Like it was a stretch, but yeah, love it.
All right.
No.
Last one, the SALT cap. No cap, Jeremy. When itemizing your deductions on your tax return, this is the limit that you can deduct from taxes paid.
Well, what did you call this? The salt? Like sodium?
Yeah.
Code. Sounds reasonable.
So yes, the SALT, state and local taxes. When you're itemizing on your tax return on Schedule A, because all of y'all do, maybe, I don't know. But there is a limit on how much you can deduct from state and local taxes paid on property taxes and your state tax return last year. And so the SALT cap is currently $10,000. There's legislation out there actually to talk about increasing the SALT cap, which I think would be kind of nice, especially as real estate taxes keep getting higher and higher and higher, and your deduction is still capped because it's not growing at the rate of inflation and taxes. So I wouldn't mind seeing that cap go up.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I don't have a lot of faith in new legislation going anywhere right now unless it's very, very much somebody's darling. So
absolutely.
Yep.
utility accruals, depreciation schedules, amortized expenses. No, these aren't just the suggested topics at an accountant's only speed dating mixer. These are also the reasons that accounting's hottest new app has changed my life. Presenting Accruer by FinOptimal. We accountants now have the power to post years, months, and fortnights worth of accrual entries in just seconds. The time savings alone on receiving perfectly crafted reconciliations to all my prepaid expense accounts and depreciation schedules is enough to make me name my next child Accruer. Luckily, I'm done having kids. If you want to join the party, head on over to finoptimal.com to see Accruer in action. They offer a 60-day money-back guarantee, and they don't even require a demo. Use the code Unaccountable to get 50% off your first 2 months and to prove to Tom at FinOptimal that more than my mom listens to this podcast. Now back to the show.
Jeremy, by the way, 8 out of 9. Before we jump into halftime, like, you sounded smart there. Way to go, man.
Wow, yeah, only like faltered on that first one. That's fantastic.
Well done. Jeremy, it is now time for halftime, the part of the show where we head over to the sidelines and get a nice little bite out of a snack. And today, our app is Kahoot. Have you heard of this?
I have not heard of this one, so I saw this one was out there, and I'm like, this was a great call. I would love to learn all about this one, so tell me about Kahoot.
Okay, so first of all, we are straying from the land of accounting, right? This is not even close to an accounting level app. It's a software, Kahoot, for all of you listening, Kahoot, Kahoot, with an exclamation point, right? It's like Yahoo. In fact, the exclamation point in their logo looks a lot like Yahoo's exclamation. So, you know, we're calling out a trademark violation.
They only changed one letter in the name and just added one, right? And just all of their branding. I love it.
It's kind of true. That does look a lot like that.
Yeah.
All that being said, this is basically, you can create quiz shows out of this. In fact, Jeremy, I don't know why I haven't gone on Unaccountable and we do one of these on a Friday. But the reason I love Kahoot, or there's also other ones out there like quizshow.io, I'm not going to plug anyone as better than the other. But what I do love is this is a great software to make a game show that you can hold with your staff on a fun Friday or something. And so I usually make these games filled with a little bit of pop culture trivia, kind of like what we do here, plus some accounting knowledge, some tax knowledge, and we use it as a way for our team to have fun on one live meeting. Everyone uses their phone as a remote control. Any of you that have ever played like Jackbox games or anything, it's exactly that, but you can build your own games for work. I love it. Like, we used to use Quiz Show. I switched to Kahoot for different reasons, but both work great, and there's other ones out there. If you're looking for a way to engage your staff and have fun, team bonding while entirely remote but continuing ed, like, this is the way to go, and it is awesome. Hit me with questions.
Was this the inspiration for Unaccountable?
No, but
well,
the inspiration. I mean, first of all, you're giving me credit here because you're making it sound like Unaccountable was my idea. No. What I will say is, you know, we had our idea when you and I came up with Unaccountable, and then you and I, we've been in cities together with all our friends, and we do play Jackbox games. Yeah. And I'm like, how could we do this for accounting? I want to do a game like that. And that's when I found these two programs. We've been doing them once a quarter for like 2 years, and it's just fun. It's just like your team gets to goof off, and you can mix in some education amongst Princess Bride trivia.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have, I see that like other apps out there, there's a sign up for free, right? But you have, guessing, the paid version if you want to do your own and make it fancy. What does that look like?
The paid version. So, I mean, there's a lot more customization you can do. And of course, there's tiers. The cheapest paid version is good enough for me. Yeah. And essentially, it's, you know, how many people you can host in a meeting. They do have some AI built in to help you build questions. It's not amazing. I would rather go to Perplexity or ChatGPT to help me build the questions and just put them in there. Yeah. But overall, you know, once you build one of these quiz shows, it's super easy, and your entire team can just use their phone as a buzzer while sitting in a meeting with you.
I liked that answer, other than you didn't answer the question, much like if you were the Kahoot sales rep of what does it cost you to use this?
So first you have to know for pricing, they have so many different pricing structures because like they make it almost free for like students in school, and then they have business ones and what you can do. You know, starter, it's $10 a month per host. I think we are actually paying for, I think we're paying $10 or a cheaper yearly price. And I use it enough that I feel justified in it. Again, up to 20 participants, which, my firm is still under that size. I don't know, man. A cheap investment if you're looking for a fun way to engage your staff. I think quizshow.io was cheaper. Honestly, I just wanted to feature this to get smaller firm owners out there thinking about the ways that you can both train your staff and build camaraderie.
Yeah, I agree. And we try to do like a Jackbox or something that usually once a month, and sometimes well attended, sometimes not, based on people's schedules, right? But it just brings you together in a whole different fashion, right? I mean, it's the best if you can do it live and be in the same room, because you can mess with people more and have more interaction. Just one other way you can get out there and get together, and it just brings everybody together and makes you bond so much more. And the more you're bonded, the more those employees are sticky, and then you don't have turnover, and it's all a huge snowball of goodness.
Tell you what, Jeremy, I've got an idea, because I've already got like 6, 7 like good accounting ones ready to go with some shenanigans. Okay. If we get at least 4 more 5-star reviews of people saying you should do a Friday afternoon Kahoot, I'll host one. I'll host a couple. But we got to get those 5-star reviews either out there on Podchaser or Apple, because as Jeremy can tell you, my wife is finally trying to make this podcast profitable and get sponsors, because Jeremiah keep losing too much money.
Yeah, and we appreciate that. We'll take all the help we can get.
Well, Jeremy, back onto the show, and I'm just going to keep rolling with it. I kind of stole this week from you, and I'm sorry, but I've got one more game for you.
You just wait till we get to fast figures, and we'll see who's stealing.
All right.
All right, let's do it.
Jeremy, this game is inspired by one of my favorite 1990s NBA icons, Dikembe Mutumbo, who is most famous for his
"Not in my house." No. Not today.
So, Jeremy, this game, as accountants, there are certain things we should and shouldn't do within our profession. And I want to ask you about 7 scenarios, and you're going to tell me whether it's okay for us to do or whether Dikembe Mutumbo would block us from doing that.
Okay. All right, let's do it.
Question 1. Your client, Skylar White, is going through an amicable divorce, and she asks you to put together a rough valuation of her car wash business for them to use in the splitting of assets. Is this okay, or does Dikembe come in?
No.
No.
You are correct. Why is that? Why shouldn't you do this?
Well, I think you inherently can have some conflict of interest here, potentially, right? Like if you're associated with these people at all, or trying to help them get the highest value or something like that, as an accountant, no, you need to be specifically certified and an independent party to be able to value a business and do that analysis. So I don't think just a generic accountant, you'd be able to do that.
You're hitting the nail on the head. I'm going to go even a little deeper on this. Yeah. But you can actually do valuations of companies for internal estimates and uses of the business. But when it comes to any legal proceedings, you as an accountant, unless you have the right credentials, actually can't even provide a valuation. There's actually court cases out there where valuations by accountants that weren't one of these 4 credentials, a certified valuation analyst, a CVA, an ABV, an ASA, or a CBA, which, whatever, we don't need to go into all of those. But you need to actually have these credentials, which require years of experience, to be used in any legal proceedings. And there's actually even court cases where this were thrown out. Jeremy, I did research. Hohenschneid versus Kammer was the case. So there you go. If anyone says we don't do research here, I did it once.
Was that a United States case or in Germany? Because it doesn't.
No, it's here.
All right.
But interesting to note. So accountants, no.
No.
Question 2. Your client is struggling to do more than break even on their business for the last 2 years and asked you to help them with creating a budget for the upcoming year.
I feel like that's a yes.
Yeah, we're okay. We're okay with that. Oh, it's honestly great. If you understand the business and you are able to do so, this is a great advisory service. Don't shy away from helping them build a budget. Jeremy, you do this for a lot of your clients, don't you?
Yeah, and we charge for it, right? We get the point where people want variance analysis from their budget to what they actually do for the year, right? Mm-hmm. And I can do that. We'll throw if you give us a budget, we'll throw that in QuickBooks and we'll do the variance reporting and for you and whatnot, and do that just part of bookkeeping. But you can't ask me to explain the variances if I'm not part of the budget creation process. Yep. So that is a separate service where, yes, we will put the budget together for you, put together a list of assumptions and things we built into them. So then you say later, hey, why is my labor up 20% over my budget? well, here's the labor that we budgeted for. Here's where you're at now. Here's why, or I can't explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a great service, and I'm sure you like the fees that come with it.
Yeah, it's just another monthly tack on, right? Like, because we go through and do all the variance reporting then too. Yeah.
I love it. Question 3, Jeremy. Big Bobby's basic bookkeeping biz has a client who needs an audited set of financials for their home mortgage. The books are super easy, and you are 100% sure they're accurate. Should you provide the audit opinion?
No.
No.
Yes. Dikembe, well done. Unless you are a CPA and you are not the one doing the bookkeeping from a conflict of interest, no. Any attestation services, you need that credential and you need a little separation of duties.
And I'm not saying I'm totally intelligent on this aspect, but we don't do that either. But you can't even do it if you're not a CPA, even a compiled, right? Because they have a full audit, right? And then you have a review, and then you have a compilation or a compiled statement. You cannot even do that if you're not a CPA, correct?
Correct. No, the review, the lesser review compilation, you need the credentials. Also, Ian, can I get that audio clip for future where Jeremy just said, I'm not 100% intelligent, and then I just want that clip to use in future episodes.
Well, okay, to go out of this, we just had this request the other day where somebody like, hey, can you sign off on these statements? And my team said, is that okay? They're looking for a compiled version. I said, absolutely not.
No.
However, I used to work at a bank and we would require statements and put them in our software. I have gotten compilations from people with balance sheets that don't balance. So like there is, I have thoughts on whether I feel like my compilation would be better than a lot of other ones out there, but I'm off the high horse now.
Yeah, but don't do it, folks.
Yeah.
All right. Next question, Jeremy. Number 4. Your consultant client, Bert, tells you he's bringing on his business partner, his friend Ernie. They ask if you can draft up a quick operating agreement for them. You do so with the help of ChatGPT and provided them saying it's up to them to make sure if it's good.
Ooh, if you didn't add in that last part, I'm still going to go no.
No. You are correct. So, one of the big things you don't ever want to do is to be caught playing lawyer. Mm-hmm. That includes drafting any legal agreement or contracts. This is a big one. And this is where, I work with a lot of clients that are like, hey, can you just write up an employee handbook? Or do you guys have something for me? Or, we don't have an employment agreement. Can you just provide us one you've seen elsewhere? Anything like that. If you provide it, you are providing some sort of legal services and you need to stay away from any contract. That's why even these programs that you can do for building your own business, they shy away from giving you an actual contract to use because that's playing lawyer. So you need to avoid any sort of activity where the state bar might say, hey, you're unauthorized practicing law.
Okay. I might be flirting with this one. So let me we have clients because part of their audits, they need to have an expense policy or something. And I think I'm okay. I usually give them an example of one, but I said, here it is, make it your own. But now even with that, I don't think I'm going to stop doing that, but maybe you should tell me I should. And then I have one other question, but I'm going to say, here is an example found. I have no association, blah, 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 completely lawyer up with this. So still no? What do you think?
So that's the question. You'd honestly want to ask your lawyer and your insurance company to see what they would cover. Because again, I can't tell you what's going to get held up in a court of law. What I can say is I don't know, this is now subjective, Jeremy. This is me not knowing what is fair game and what is not. Expense policy, I would feel like company guidelines, if you say, hey, yeah, put these measures in place, great. Employment contracts, that's one I would never touch. Anything that might get pulled up in a courtroom as agreements signed by two parties, I would steer away from.
Yeah. I'm not even going to bring up my other example because I feel like it was a terrible idea now that we're talking about.
All right. Question 5, Jeremy. Your client has a half-assed accounting game show podcast that struggles to make money. You advise your client on things they can do to reduce costs, increase sales, and replace the subpar hosts of the show. Is this sort of advising okay or no?
No.
No, you can absolutely give them advice on how to improve operations. If you know it, you're looking at the financials, you're seeing income needs to come up, the hosts need to get replaced. If it's just operational advice, that's fair game.
I would have said yes, but you ended with we should replace the hosts. So I was like, I don't care what it is. I'm saying no.
Fair point. I respect the taking the L to uphold the principle.
Yeah, right.
I mean, this is advisory, man. This is why I love hotels, because all day, every day I can say, like, you're spending too much on a complimentary breakfast. Like, there's no way you should be spending $18 a person. That should be $4 a person buying in bulk. Like, there's just stuff like that all day.
You're the reason I got to eat the frozen omelet cheese mush, whatever it
You're
is.
spending $90 a night on that hotel room. Yes, you should be eating mush. Okay, it's only when you're spending $400 that we're going to get up to $20. See, this is why I know.
That's fair.
2 more questions for you, Jeremy. Your client Kirsten comes to you and asks your opinion on an offer she received to invest in an herbal supplement company. She thinks it's a great investment opportunity, but wants your number-oriented eyes to look it over.
I'm going to go no.
No.
Any sort of investment advice, you need to be a certified financial planner. And this is where it's really hard as a tax advisor, because someone could come to me and say, like, hey, how do I reduce taxes? It's like, okay, what do you got in retirement? Well, cool. Like, if you're going to make more money later in life, let's do the Roth now. Or if you're going to have less income, maybe it's traditional. Like, we can talk about all of that. But if they say, should I put that money in Google or Apple? You got to put your hands up and say, you need to talk to your CFP. If they say, hey, would you rather I put this money in an S&P or a NASDAQ fund? You got to throw your hands up and say no. If they say, hey, I have an investment opportunity, I want to know what you think of it, you need to say no, because that is certified financial planner territory, and you can get in a lot of trouble for that.
Yeah, and I probably flirt with this one too, man. I'm not very good. Wow. But like, because nonprofits usually have funds to invest, right?
Yep.
And they'll ask sometimes, and like, or if they're looking at a different 401k plan and the funds that are in there and whatnot. I'm pretty good at saying, like, hypothetically speaking, I would encourage you to take low fee funds versus higher, things like that. But I think I get that question a lot. So that one's got to be careful for.
Well, it's specific funds. So like you can say, look, if you guys don't need this money, you could put it in a high yield account. You could put it in a CD. You could put it in the market, and the market traditionally is doing 10. That's all fair game. But if you say, ooh, my brother's company is doing an IPO and you should, you're flirting, man.
Yeah.
Bad place to be. Last question, Jeremy. You owe your client who lives down the street from you here in Utah $60. So you should be refunding them. But they say, hey, I've seen how great you are at braiding your kids' hair. Will you come do cornrows for my daughter and we'll just call the debt even? Is that fair game or no?
Is it, like, clarifying question, is that a business amount?
Yes.
That I owe them? Okay. You could theoretically do some bartering entry. I'm going to go no.
No.
So it's funny. It's interesting, Jeremy. You don't need a license really to file people's taxes here in this country. But in the state of Utah, as well as many other states, braiding hair requires proper certification with the state. That just doing it without getting registered, certified in the years of experience, you get fined and shut down as a business.
Who lobbied for this?
I know.
Oh, man.
Big hair braiding.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
They lobbied and made sure that the average hair braider, blows my mind. There you go. Jeremy, well done, sir. Again, only one wrong.
Nice. I'm on a roll.
Welcome to Fast Figures. 10 questions, 1 minute-ish. All answers are numbers. The game starts now.
All right. If you guys haven't had enough of Tyler talking, God knows I have. So let's get into Fast Figures, where I had the honor of setting together today's gauntlet with a March-related theme. Care to take any initial guesses? You're thinking March. What do you think of?
The Ides, the madness.
Ooh, the madness. So we're going to go into the madness of March. Let's get a timer going. Are you ready?
No, but here we go.
All right. Within 5%, what is the highest individual income tax rate in U.S. history?
37%.
Within 50 years, what year did Vincent van Gogh, the famous mad artist, cut off part of his own ear?
1770? I'm so bad at history.
What is the record of bankruptcies filed by an individual in a single year?
Within how much?
2. I don't know.
18. A single year, 18.
How many teams punched their ticket to be included in the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Tournament this year?
Including the play-ins?
Total in the field, yes.
66.
In the band Muse, in their 2012 hit, how many times does the lyric "Ma" get sang before they say "mad"?
8?
According to Lewis Carroll, how many people attended the Mad Hatter's Tea Party?
Was it just Alice? 3.
As of 2030, Danish livestock farmers will be taxed 300 kroner per ton of carbon dioxide emitted by their cattle. Within $100, how much is this estimated to be per cow annually in USD?
And 100? Wow, 500?
In Greek mythology, how many labors did Hercules have to complete after being driven mad by Hera?
200. I love that you give me no window on these.
Common knowledge, no, okay. A brand of American fortified wine, MD, followed by this number, is commonly referred to as Mad Dog.
MD5.
In Dante's Inferno, which circle of hell is reserved for fraudulent accountants?
7th?
All right. Let's unpack
Oh,
this.
that was awful.
As you're talking to us, I'm like, wow, I did make this pretty hard.
I mean, you threw random things out there with no windows. How am I going to get any of these right?
All right, fair. Okay. So let's unpack this. So within 5%, what is the highest individual income tax rate in U.S. history? You said 37. It is 94%.
Oh, that's brutal.
Right after World War II, that is what the tax rate was, which, yeah, brutal, right? But I had just seen it was like a TED Talk or a professor talking to his class that at this point through 1973 was often considered the most prosperous point in U.S. history. And they put a lot of that to the redistribution of wealth, that the very wealthy were taxed at 90% or above. That got given back to the lower classes who could then buy more goods, which would make companies bigger, which owned by the rich individuals, and they would get more money. So, yeah. So very interested to watch that.
Okay.
And that was wrong. Anyway, next one. Within 50 years, what year did Van Gogh cut off his own ear? You said 1770. It was in 1888.
Yeah, I don't know history.
You're not a history buff? Okay, I'm going to keep that in mind. More history questions to come in the future. All right. What is the record number of bankruptcy filed by an individual in a individual year? You said 18. I felt like I was trying to put questions into ChatGPT and find some things around madness. They said 9.
Okay.
So I'm not giving you a correct or wrong in here. I could not corroborate this information. I tried everywhere to try to find it. I did some research, and I could not corroborate. But what I would like to unpack with this one, as your tax knowledge, filing bankruptcy, what kind of impact does that have on tax filings?
You know, I have never done a tax return for someone filing bankruptcy. I don't know if I know this. I probably learned it in school, but
Yeah.
educate me.
I only did a little research on this too, because I was curious if this is something as a taxpayer you'd know. Hopefully you're not dealing with a lot of tax filers who have filed for bankruptcy.
No.
But what I found is the average individual consumer filing bankruptcy and discharging debt has no tax consequences.
Interesting.
Right? However, if your debts are forgiven or settled outside of bankruptcy, the forgiven amount would be added to your income and subject to tax as a cancellation of debt income. I feel like this is a little weird that, like, hey, if I work through this and get it canceled and like get some, like, you know, sometimes, hey, I have $50,000 in credit card debt. We'll give it down to $25,000 if you can meet this monthly payment. I believe looking at through that, you'd have $25,000 of debt cancellation income and get taxed on that. But if I go to the lender and say, nope, I filed bankruptcy, you get jack squat, then it's better for me for tax implications. That seems
for
weird.
tax implications, but for all other future investments and other stuff, like that's hanging over your head.
Yeah, I suppose. And can the people who file bankruptcy really afford the tax anyway? I don't know. I just thought that was interesting, and I was curious if you had seen that. Yeah.
Good note.
Cool. All right, next one. How many teams punched their ticket to the big dance?
How many playing games are there? Is there just 2?
There are 4 playing games.
All right, well then that's my error there.
Yeah, 4 playing. It used to be just 2. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. So I'll give you that one. But as you said, 66. It's 68.
Okay. Yeah, I still thought there were 2. My bad.
Related question: are the Utah Utes in the big dance?
No.
No.
No, no, no.
I would like to say the Badgers are, and I think they play in like 20 minutes here, so you'll know by the time this airs. However, again, doing probably the best research I did because it's sports related versus the accounting side. The Utah Utes are being included in the inaugural college basketball crown tournament in Las Vegas. So those of you that know basketball, and I won't go too far into this, is you have the big dance, right? The championship. Then you have the National Invitational Tournament, the NIT. Now they've added this third tournament. So the Utes didn't make the second one. They got invited to the third one. If you had to guess where this, and this will be telling, in my opinion, where this tournament is being held, where would you think that is?
Didn't you just say Vegas?
Oh, I did. Did I say Vegas? All right. Next question.
Wait.
Yeah, you're gonna need that, so we'll give you that one. But I feel like, so first of all, I had two thoughts of this. Is like, if the kids want to play basketball, you want to add a tournament, great. Like, let them play, right? Get a trophy, whatever. Let's do this. But then I thought I was interested in Vegas because you know that the tournament, the main championship, is, other than the Super Bowl, is probably the highest betted sports event that's out there.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's held in Vegas where they know they can get people to bet on it and go there and watch it and whatnot. Yep. So ulterior motive, but yeah, good for the kids probably overall.
No, but I love this. You know, you have the good players in their tournament, the NIT for the mid tier. You have the sub tier right here now with their own tournament. And then you got the Hunger Games for everyone else. This is perfect.
Yeah, that's right. It's absolutely perfect. All right. Next one. In the band's Muses 2022 hit Madness, how many times do they sing Ma before they say mad? You said 8. It is 8. Ian, can you hit me with the refrain of that one? I loved if you had to see Tyler's face, that he's counting mamas on his hands as he did it, but perfect. Way to go. Next one. And again, I think this is kind of mad. In 2030, Danish livestock farmers are getting taxed $300 kroner per ton of carbon monoxide emitted by their cattle. How much is this USD annually estimated? Gave you a window of what, $100? You said $500. It's actually $250. The average cow emits 6 metric tons of carbon monoxide, and 300 kroner is about $43, which goes to about $250.
Wow.
I can't imagine, first of all, like, I have cows and you're taxing me on their methane gas, but I get it. But what other like environmental focused tax law things do you know, like off the top of your head, things that are out there? I have one example. Otherwise,
well, I mean, I know like the green energy credits and the carbon credits that you can transfer and all of that. I don't know. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, like let's talk through one of those. What's the green energy one? I'm not familiar with that one.
Well, that one is just tax credits if you do certain improvements upon your house. If you were paying attention to last week when I grilled Jeremy, but like, you know, solar panels, wind energy, you know, there's certain things, and there's like EV credits, and yeah.
Hey, just because you're not doing well in this game doesn't mean you got to start throwing jabs at me, all right? And I actually listen and pay attention to our shows. Yeah, that was the other one I had, like the EV car tax credit, right? If you bought an EV after 2023 and it's primarily built in the U.S., then there's a $7,500 tax credit there too. So
I got Chrysler Pacifica hybrid.
Ooh, you got one of those? Nice.
Yeah, but I think we bought that in 22. But yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's a fun little credit.
Nice. Yep, love it. Also wrong. Anyway, in Greek mythology, how many labors did Hercules have after being driven mad by Hera? You said 200. It was 12. Yeah. I love how you complained about this one. This one I might have known.
No.
I wanted, well, first of all, he killed, like, part of the badness is he killed his wife and children. I didn't realize that, but like, okay.
Way to bring levity to the show.
That's intense. And then I did think to myself, how much of a nerd is Tyler? Would you be able to state any of the labors that?
No.
Okay, I was just curious because you know, what was the random other crap you're pulling out of your butt?
I could see how you would think I would know that because ask me to name the 7 wonders of the world. I got you in their history, but no.
That's just what I just come to my head. I'm like, the 7 wonders of the world. Maybe he knows this. So there's 12 of them. I'm not going to go through. The only one that made me laugh a little bit was obtain the girdle of Hippolyta. I don't know what kind of girdle that is, but that sounds like it's quite the trial. Anyway, all right. That's a labor. Number 9, a brand of American fortified wine, MD, this number, is commonly referred to as Mad Dog. You said MD5. This is MD 2020. So Mad Dog 2020, not familiar with that, huh?
No, I'm not. I'm struggling on this episode.
I don't know if that's a Midwest thing or something, but it got its name. Actually, MD is for the person who created it, but it's 20-ounce bottle and 20% alcohol.
Okay.
And I recall very vividly rejecting some of this in my younger years and turning all sorts of a Wisconsin snow-filled yard orange with my rejection of Mad Dog 2020. So it is not good. It is cheap. That's all I'll say. Good time. All right. Last one. Dante's Inferno. What circle of hell is reserved for fraudulent accountants? You said 7. It's actually the 8th circle of hell.
Wait. Talk to me why.
Each of the circles of hell have their own number or their own, I don't know, whatever it is, sin tied to them, right? But I thought this was weird too, because I like every time you hear it, it's the 7th circle of hell. So
yeah,
do you know any of the other circles of hell? Again, I'm going to chance you for you to nerd out here.
Back when I was reading Dan Brown and like, what was it? Which book was it that really went heavy in the mythology of Dante's Inferno? Oh, was it called Inferno. Dante's Inferno? Oh, Inferno.
I think it was Inferno. Yeah.
So Inferno, like, I got curious and read a lot about the history of Dante's Inferno. Like, it was fun. I've forgotten too much, but yeah, no, teach me here.
Yeah, but so it's in order: limbo. So I feel like that's doing the limbo to the song. Yeah. Lust, gluttony.
Right now you're just talking about the stages of drinking at a party: limbo, lust, gluttony. Go on.
Well, the Mad Dog called all of these: limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, wrath, hearsay. So the 7th circle of hell.
Come on.
Heresy. Oh yeah, hearsay. Damn it. So the 7th circle of hell, we're gonna glaze right over that, is violence, which seemed weird. The 8th circle is fraud, and then the 9th is treachery. The only additional thing I would like to add on to this, I always like to tell people that whatever circle of hell I'm in, I know that the music is going to be the Intuit QuickBooks hold music. That is
when you call into their line.
Yeah, that's going to be playing. I don't know what other labors and trials I'll have to go through, but that will be the music playing because that will drive me the most insane versus any song ever.
What level of hell is for people that continually skip a question when they review Fast Figures and don't talk about Alice in Wonderland?
Son of a gun. That's got to be the 10th layer of hell. Dang it. I'm so bad at this. All right, well, let's circle back. If you want to understand another one that you've had wrong, let's go to Lewis Carroll's Mad Hatter Tea Party coming back. I'm glad you caught it because usually Ian's like, hello, gentlemen. You know you guys forgot one of the questions on Fast Figures. Dang it. So how many people are at the Mad Hatter's Tea Party? You said 3. There are 4. Can you name them? What 3 did you have?
I mean, I would have thought it was Alice.
Yep.
Gosh, hold on. So it was Alice, the Hare, and the Hatter, right? She's chasing the hare, the Hatter's party, and that was it. Yep. What am I missing?
The Dormouse was also there at the party. We're going to give you a 1.5 on that, and the 0.5 is these were hard, and I realize that, but sometimes got to put you through the ringer. And like, let's just review how good Jeremy did this episode and how not so good.
Well, look at that. We're running out of time. We got to get to winner of the week.
Ooh, that was a solid segue. So winner of the week this week is Creek Professionals Alliance. Accounting Today just came out with their top 25 fastest growing accounting firms, and that is the number 1 out of Tampa, Florida. Do you want to name 2 accounting firms that are not on this list?
Oh, okay. I'm going to go first with nonprofit bookkeeping.
Correct.
I'm going to guess second, specialized accounting.
Also correct. Well done. Number 24, though, is Your Part-Time Controller, which is a nonprofit one that I'm gunning for. So I was very disappointed to see them on there. But way to go, Your Part-Time Controller.
You know, Jeremy, though, I look at these numbers and part of me is like, we just don't do good enough self-promotion. That's really what it comes down to. We should also do our own list of top growing mediocre accounting game show themed podcast 2025.
Yeah, we'd kill that.
Yeah.
I'm bitter now. I'm looking at the Your Part-Time Controller. It only has 1 partner. And then it's like 800 employees. I want to be that greedy bastard. Dang it. Anyway, all right, let's go to losers. Speaking of losers. Losers this week, PwC. If you heard that, then this is more international news, but Saudi Arabia's wealth fund, we talked about this. I remember we talked about this.
The Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Sovereign Wealth Fund. They banned Big Four PwC from advisory and consulting services for at least the next year, but really didn't say why.
Okay.
But they're out. So all the other ones, the Ernst & Youngs and all, they're trying to get in on all the auditing and consulting projects for the Saudi Wealth Fund, which is, I think it was the second or third biggest in the world and has just enormous impact on the Mideast in general. So yeah, big kind of loss for PwC there.
Wow. Well, Jeremy, as far as new reviews we have this week, are you ready for this one?
Yeah, we got one.
No, we don't. So until next week, sir, hope you have a great end of March. Enjoy the madness. Hope the Badgers do well and the Utes in their new tournament as well. And we'll see you next week, man.
Sounds fantastic. Always a pleasure.